Welcome back to the Real Recovery Show. I'm joined here with Tay Singer and Bear Bear. I don't know if you can see him. He's now the radio station mascot. Do you see? I don't know if you can see him. But anyway, last week we did a show on slogans of recovery, that there's all these sayings and that it's really helpful to dig deep on them and to understand what they mean and how to implement them in our life.
Yeah.
And we went a lot deeper with a lot of them, and so there's so much more to cover, so we decided to do 2 episodes in the hopes that it could help people to have a deeper understanding and learn. When I was new to recovery and even well into recovery, I didn't know what a lot of them meant.
Right.
I would see them, I would hear about them. People, well-meaning people, would tell me them to try to calm me down or help me to see things differently. But, you know, as you go, you learn more and more and more if you remain teachable.
Right.
And more gets revealed. And so today we're going to start off our episode on slogans and sayings in recovery and what they mean and how they can be used. With the first one being that we're only as sick as our secrets. Mm. You know, at first, we think that what we're holding so secretive in our lives, like we don't feel safe to tell anybody else. And usually that could be the one thing that kept us from getting any kind of help. Mm-hmm. You know, just admitting that we had a problem was hard enough, but really talking about it and being honest and saying, this is the stuff that's been going on, not just in my life, but in my head. This is the thing that happened to me when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. This is the thing I did to this person. Yeah. You know, these are the kinds of thoughts that I think. And we think that this is how we can protect ourselves. But what happens is that we become so toxic because we keep the same interpretation of an event, we keep the same mental programming in our mind that everywhere we go, there's this feeling of nobody knows me, nobody gets it, I'm terminally unique. You know, you would drink or use drugs if you had my problems.
Right, or if you knew my situation.
Or if you knew. And then there's like things that we don't even want to admit to ourselves. Yeah. Things that we did or that happened to us that were just, because of our interpretation, so intolerable to our mental well-being that we needed to deny it and push it back and stuff it. And we know that when we are in active addiction, we are always stuffing our feelings. Yeah. You know, that's why some people in active addiction blow up. Yeah. You know, in using. You know, some people could be a nice person, but when you give them alcohol, they go off. You know, it's not that there are 2 people. It's that there's somebody stuffing their feelings and afraid to talk about something, and then you give them no inhibition, and then you just can't stop them. It's just that energy of just pushing back and stuffing our feelings, and it comes out sideways. And I learned about this because if I was going to keep my toxic self-narrative, I was going to remain in shame. I was going to take things very personally in relationship situations and make it about the toxic narrative, like nobody loves me, nobody will love me, I'm unlovable, you know, etc., or project it onto them and be a victim. You know, I'd be so happy, I'd be so okay if it wasn't for them doing XYZ. And why that's so important is that I'm keeping all this narrative, I'm keeping the sickness, I'm protecting the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. I'm protecting the wrong thing. I'm not recognizing that my problems are not coming from outside of me. My solution is not keeping people smoke screened to know what's going on with me. That isn't. That's how I keep sick. Right. That's how I keep sick. Yeah. And so in recovery, when I'm able to like start to share, and you know, if you're new to recovery, there will be things that you believe you will take to the grave. There will be things that you will think that you do not want to tell another person for whatever reason, legal or people's opinion of you, your own shame, or it brings it up too much for you. And honestly, if you do have a lot of trauma around some of your secrets, It is helpful to get therapy. It is helpful to use whatever it is that resonates to provide that safe place for you to be able to unpack this. I've often thought of this saying as somebody who has a perfectly clean house and their garage is a complete pigsty, and they have all of the stuff that they don't know what to do with packed into closets. And they are so overwhelmed and they're so afraid of opening the closet because all of the stuff's gonna fall out. And how are they possibly going to know what's usable and not usable? Some of it's broken, some of it's smelly, and some of it never was usable. Some of it they got from other people, etc. And that's what our secrets are. That's what our mental programming is. You know, we want everyone to think that we have it all together and look at our house. It's all pretty and clean, you know, but don't go in that room. Don't go in that closet. And, you know, when we have the right attitude and the right community and the right process and people that we can start to trust to unpack this stuff with, we're able to open the closet with them, you know, with a higher power, with other people, and start to go through some of this stuff and to see. And, you know, and I've been around recovery for a long time that I mean, it's crazy how this happens over and over and over again. The things you think are so horrible that you can't fathom other people getting, understanding, having experienced themselves. In recovery, you will find a lot of people who have walked through either worse stuff or as difficult as what you've walked through. And it's one of those things that helped me to realize that, you know, maybe I'm not as unique. You know, there are things that I've never heard anybody having experienced that I experienced. You know, like I was experimented on by a doctor and then given drugs, and I ended up getting high with the guy all the time, right? And I got really super sick from that experience. That's not in the form of it anything I've ever heard in recovery, other people experiencing. But I've heard people gaslighting and manipulating somebody. I've heard people go into cult-like scenarios. You know, and when you're really willing to hear the similarities and not focus on the differences, you do see that there are people that can relate, that can understand what it is that you're going through. And I love that. That's one of the things about even my childhood or everything I've done or everything that's happened to me, right? It enables me to be able to be a safe place for somebody to share their secrets. Yeah. You know, because, and that's the criteria. So if you have certain secrets that you think you're going to take to the grave, and you're starting to understand that you are keeping yourself toxic, and you do need to have a different narrative because you're feeling toxic all the time and uncomfortable in your own skin. The criteria to being able to unpack this stuff is that you do need to feel like you have a safe place. You need to feel like it's a closed-mouthed person. Right. And you need to know that they're not going to share what you're telling them. It may be that one day all the energy's gone, the narrative's changed, and you will say it on the level of a show, you know, whatever it is, because I'm telling you things I didn't tell anybody for a while. Right. I'm telling you things matter-of-factly that I couldn't even say to myself, you know, like that these things happened. It was so traumatic that I couldn't even say it. Yeah. I couldn't. I thought I was going to take it to the grave because I couldn't handle it. Yeah. You know, when that happened, as an example, with the doctor, he got, the state ethics board went into his office, took all of his paperwork, and suspended his license. And I was supposed to, there was a lawyer that was going to work pro bono because I reminded him of his daughter. At least that's what he said. And I had to face the doctor in court. And I was so traumatized. I had so much stuff going on for myself. I had complex PTSD before that even happened, or I wouldn't have even signed up for that whole thing in the first place. Yeah. I had just such a confusion of who I am and what my highest good looks like and how to take care of myself. I was so sick that I was too terrified to face him in court. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't even do it in a courtroom. So when I got to recovery, I couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
It was something that I remember when I first started writing, and I was like, how am I going to tell anybody anything? Mm-hmm. How? And now I could say it at the level of all this because it doesn't have that charge anymore. Because right. I feel like it's helpful to say, when we don't talk about this stuff, we don't heal. Right. And if we don't heal, we are signing ourselves up to more experiences like the ones we went through. Because if we don't take the dark and bring it to the light and heal it and change our perception and learn tools of what we could do differently today and how we could see things differently today and get some of that energy out, we're going to keep choosing the same things and being in similar situations where we put ourselves in a position to be hurt.
For me, the sick as your secrets thing is a lot more raw because I feel like it's taken me a long time to expose some secrets. And part of that, I would say most of that is my programming, because for me it's like, well, if I tell this person this thing, it's going to hurt them more than if I tell, if I lie about it. And so and that's something that I learned really young was, how to tell a story so that nobody was upset, and that was something that was super important to me. So for me, it's been very hard to expose some secrets that I don't want to expose and to tell some truths that I don't want to tell, because I don't want to hurt the people around me, but I'm destroying everything else. And that's something that I've really learned about this in the last couple of years, is that those secrets are so toxic even with long-term sobriety,
Yeah.
And I know this is for another episode because we are actually going to do an episode on this, but that saying for me hits so hard, because I do find myself super sick when I have those secrets.
Do you know that caring what people think and feeling an overdeveloped sense of their reaction to what we say, that is all this? That is all that keeps us sick as our secrets. Mm-hmm. Because if I have a secret, I'm basically telling myself it is so bad that I cannot tell anybody.
Right.
I have put it in a folder, quarantined it, and told myself that my security, my well-being, is completely dependent upon my not telling anybody this thing. So now, if anybody... if I tell somebody and they judge it, I will be mortified.
Right.
Because I've already decided it's bad.
Right.
That's why the second criteria, so the first criteria for dealing with secrets is to make sure that you have a closed-mouthed person. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the therapist is great for that because by law,
they can't say anything.
They can't say anything. And but also you can find people in recovery who really understand how important it is to be that closed-mouthed person, to really listen. And so the second criteria is that you believe that at least a high likelihood that you will not be judged.
That's the big thing for me, is to not be judged.
It has to be somebody that you feel and that they would share of their own journey, and that 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 they're somebody that you can start talking about, because you can try them out with little ones, the things that you can handle if somebody judges you, and you can start working your way up from that. I was terrified, and so I ended up having a conversation with my first mentor that I was like, there are some things I don't ever want to talk about, but now that I'm going to be telling you all the things, I need to meet with you now. I need to talk to you. Mm-hmm. So we went to this place, and she was in the middle of something, and she stopped. And so I just immediately started blurting it out. This thing that I thought I was never going to talk about.
Yeah.
I immediately started blurting it out first. I didn't do what I just said. I didn't warm up, not in that situation. And but it was good, because this is what happened. she turns around when I was done, and man, I'm the kind of person that watches body language, energy shifts, eye movement, everything. Like I was literally like watching her while I was speaking, and I was looking to see if any kind of evidence that I was being judged was there, because that's how much shame I had. You know, we're only as sick as our secrets. The secrecy, there's so much shame inherent in it, and fear. So I finished saying the thing, and she turned around and she said, "You feel better?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Good. Now will you tell me the thing that's so bad?"
Wow.
And she was sincere.
Wow.
She didn't know I was leading with it. I told her I don't know if I can even tell her. She had no idea. I just came in there like throwing up everything, you know? And I was blown away because I was like, maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. Maybe in the darkness of my own mind, where I am, the mind, like your head is a place, it's like a dark room where you just keep processing negatives, right?
Yeah.
It's like in the dark room where I'm just making the negatives or processing the negatives, like I can't see anything else. I literally have this closed loop of, this is my secret. I have judged this thing as bad. I have told myself exactly why it's bad and why I can't tell anyone. And I have shoved it into a folder, and I have labeled that fact.
Yeah.
And I have no other experience of this. And so my terrifying fear of sharing a thing, that I'm going to get in trouble for it, hurt for it, bring someone down. That was another one. I was so overly responsible for other people's feelings that I was afraid of bringing them down with all my stuff. And but yeah, like as we start to like heal this stuff and question this stuff, it becomes more and more chewable. And my gauge is, how easy can I talk about it now? You know, like I know when something's healed by whether or not, how well I could talk about it, how I don't care what people think, and if I can make jokes and laugh. And I'm telling you, if you have secrets and you don't believe that you can get to those experiences, you can.
Yeah.
Because I've been through things, I've been through a lot that has happened to me and by me and with me and whatever, that I believed you couldn't heal from.
Yeah.
You know, but we are as sick as our secrets.
Yeah.
We are. It separates us. We never feel loved. We never feel heard. We never feel seen.
We never feel seen.
We don't love ourselves.
Right.
We don't have forgiveness.
No one
we
knows
don't have
you.
self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
Nobody knows you. And so while you're doing that, and that's your armament to protect yourself, you're protecting yourself from love.
Right.
You're protecting yourself from peace, from joining. Nope, don't bark. Somebody right outside the studio. Okay. So the next one is focusing on the solution.
The solution.
The solution.
Not the problem.
Not the problem. So this is one that had different layers to it, because focusing on the solution did not mean pretending that everything's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I would hear people telling me what's going on with them and apologizing. I'm being negative. I shouldn't be telling you this. And it's like, again, on the heels of what we just said, if you don't let it out, if you don't process it, what are you going to do?
Right.
You're going to have this toxic thinking stuck in your head. If you don't have a safe place or a safe process, and you can journal, and you can get a lot done with journaling, as long as you're taking the mess to the message, as long as you're willing to write while being open to the solution. And so we don't want to dump on people. We don't want to complain. We don't want to focus on the problem and make it bigger and try to get people to co-sign our story. But we do want to say, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
This is what I'm really thinking.
Yeah.
And I would love to have another way.
Right.
I would love to have tools. I would love to have feedback, you know? And so focusing on the solution is bringing the dark to the light.
Yeah.
It's recognizing that I'm not there yet. It's not expecting. It's back to progress, not perfection.
That's
and if you don't know that one, go to the previous episode.
Yeah.
But it's blooming where we're planted. It's being honest with ourselves, and it's feeling our feelings and saying, you know, this is what is going on with me. This is what I think is happening. This is what's going on. And, you know, what could I do? And when two people come together and one is not directly invested personally in whatever's going on with you for their own life, right? They're able to be supportive to you, but they're detached enough. They're not a relative. They're not a business partner. They're able to hold space. Mm-hmm. And they're able to do it in a non-judgmental way, closed-mouthed person. We can focus on the solution and really hear. And if we go to any kind of like speaker event or recovery event of any kind, mm-hmm. we could go in there saying, I'm going to listen for the message. Yeah. I'm going to listen for the nuggets. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm not going to judge what someone's wearing, how they sound, how long they've been going on and on and on. I'm going to actually go, and which is probably really good for the show, and just listen for what resonates. And I'm going to focus on the solution. So I have to be willing to say that whatever I'm thinking, I need a solution. Yeah. I need a shift. And I'm open to, but I'm not going to just pretend because I want to feel good all the time that everything's done, that everything's okay. You know, really being in that progress, not perfection. Really just understanding that there's something coming up to heal.
Yeah, I feel like with the idea of solution, of like being in the solution, it is that one day at a time. It is that progress, not perfection. You know, it is all those other things that we talked about, because it's to thine own self be true, even. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because if you're not living in the solution, what are you living in? You know, and I feel like we actually hit on this in the last episode when I said, why wouldn't you want to grow? You know, right. like there's a piece of like that solution that like
even when you think that you want to grow, though, Tay, even when you think that you want to grow,
might not be in the solution.
You may not be.
Right.
You may be promising that things are going to be different. You may be going through motions, but you're not actually really ready to have a shift.
That's true, and that's that secret sickness, you know, like
exactly,
like it all kind of intertwines, which I feel like is why we use all these slogans, because it does all kind of intertwine. It is all part of that onion.
So are we feeding the disease, or are we feeding the solution? Like, what are we doing? You know, there are two dogs in our mind and they're fighting, and who wins? The one you feed. Right. And so we have this negative, you know, self-destructive, addicted, I'm separate, I'm less than, I'm better than mentality that wants to tell us we don't have a problem and then tell us what our solution is, which would be drugs, alcohol, sex, etc.
Yeah.
And then we have recovery, which invites us to take a deeper look in a safe way to take ownership of our thinking and to learn certain tools to be able to have a different way of doing things. You know, like there are studies that have shown that attitude is one of the most important things in everything we do. Mm-hmm. And so if we have a problem magnifying thinking process, we are sabotaging any real success. And we are not going to enjoy the journey.
Right.
That we have to watch, like we said, with an attitude of gratitude. We have to be willing to be honest about where we're at, and we have to be open to how we could see this differently.
Yeah.
And so, we focus on the message, not the mess.
Yeah.
We don't stuff our feelings. We don't say, you know, sobriety isn't meant to be happy, happy, happy all the time, because life's in session and we have built a lot of programming into our thinking for a while. Mm-hmm. So we can just take it one step at a time and things will come up to heal. And as they come up to heal, I could blame other people. I could tell myself that my happiness rests on everything outside of me being different than it is. Mm-hmm. Or I can go within and I can ask myself, what am I telling myself? You know, what am I so focused on? you know? And once I do that, man, does the solution really take place, because I'm able to question some really toxic ideas that I accepted as if they were fact.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved. That was another one.
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know if I've heard that one either.
Yeah. Well, because we would talk about how, you know, in any kind of gathering where we share what's really going on, you know, it's great to share, oh, I know this, I know that, blah, blah, blah. But it's really great to just say, hey, I just walked through this, or this is what I'm walking through right now, and this is the tools that I'm applying to it. You know, so that people can see people walking through stuff.
Yeah.
A problem shared, other people get to share their experience, strength, and hope.
Right.
You know, bring it to someone. Pick up the phone. Let other people be helpful and share their experience, strength, and hope, because it helps them to give it to you just as much as it'll help you to then pass it on to the next person when you shift this, when you get through this.
Yeah.
So now the next one really takes into account physical things, like where are we really? You know, because there are things like it definitely is, I believe, our mind and what it is that we're thinking and what we're running on. But, you know, maybe because I'm a woman more so too, but I don't know. But like there are certain things, and I have like low blood sugar sometimes. So like maybe these are things that I love this slogan because it helps me to watch, you know, how sensitive I'm going to be, how off, how maybe more likely to be emotional. And I mean being a woman because, you know, the time of the month, you know, kind of a thing. And hormones do affect things, you know. But it's halt. You know, don't get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. If I don't sleep enough, it's harder for me. If I tell myself, I isolate myself, and I don't join with people, and I'm not willing to join with people, I start to feel alone. I'm not exchanging energy. I don't feel that oneness. I'm pulling away. I'm feeding separateness. If something's bothering me and I'm justifying it, and I'm letting myself ride that ride of being self-righteous, and it's you would be angry too if this happened to you. And if I'm hungry, if I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not checking in, if I'm not making sure that I'm giving myself healthy sustenance, you know, these things don't cause my alcoholism.
No, but
they are like adding kerosene to a flame.
Oh yeah, they're toxic.
So I will have whatever, if I have something come up to heal that day, I will be a little bit off, and I am more likely to have a hard time surrendering if I am feeling like on some level I'm in survival mode, because I am not I'm not balanced. I'm not taking care of myself. Now, I can make sure that I eat all the things and make sure that, like, you know, I don't put myself at risk in any way, shape, or form of anybody, like, bothering me, so to speak, to make me angry. And I could, you know, make sure I spend all my time, you know, doing whatever that doesn't make me feel sorry for myself, indifferent, and alone. And I could be, like, really super rested. But if something's going to come up to heal, it's going to come up to heal.
Well, what I was thinking is, if you're living in those secrets, right? Mm-hmm. Then you're living in that loneliness.
Oh, you're a walking time bomb. You're more likely to be angry. You're more likely to be tired because you'll wear yourself out.
Well, that loneliness, you know, because like we were saying before, no one knows you, and so there's these tricks that we're finding that, like, you know, this thing goes with this thing goes with this thing goes, and that's, you know, and that's how we built this recovery thing, is by finding these principles, you know, and figuring out how to really, like, live them.
So another one is take what you like and leave the rest. You know, when you hear what people share, and with this, take what you like and leave the rest. What you hear when people share, not all of it's going to be applicable to you right now. Right. Some of it might be something that you hear, but it's not really something that's really going to be helpful to you right now. Yeah. But seeds are planted, and you'll circle back when it's more applicable to you. So I just listen for what resonates, and I just trust that I will have what I need. You know, take what you like and leave the rest. If you're new, it's a lot of information. You know, just in here, this is a recording, like, you can watch it a gazillion times, but take what you like and leave the rest. Take what works for you. Take what you can apply. Be willing to be teachable.
Well, and I feel like for me, when I first came, and got sober and clean and all that sort of stuff, and was looking for this like idea of a higher power, I didn't believe in any concept of God. Like there was no possibility of me living the life that I had lived since. There was no possibility of this relationship with a being bigger than myself. So there was no reason for me to pay attention to that part of what people were saying. Right,
we just tune it out.
Well, not just tune it out, but just use it differently.
Ready. Yeah.
Yeah, there had to be an idea of something that could like help me stay sober today, because I knew the one day at a time thing, but I didn't understand that power, what that power was was omnipotent.
Which is why you'll only hear maybe some certain explanations and certain tools and not other slogans at the time, because these things like appear like helpful in the moment. They're like, oh my God, when I first got into recovery, it was like when somebody would share something so wise, I wanted to worship them. Like I was like, oh my God, that's amazing that you said that. And and they're like, well, how I am now, like, oh yeah, that's just some stuff we learn here. Like, but I was like, oh my God, you're just amazing. And it's just, even this whole show is just sharing things that we've learned from other people. Nothing original.
Nothing truly original.
No, because we're all going through that same process. So. Yeah. Well, thank you, Tay-Tay. I know you got to go.
Yep, I do.
So she just took 16 years, so she's going to go do a celebration for that. And please remember that the opinions expressed here are strictly those of the people who gave them and don't represent any 12-step program. They should not replace your own intuition or professional medical advice. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to go through some more slogans and share some more experience, strength, and hope with you. To be able to help whoever, just like I was so freely helped as well. Yeah. So thank you, Tay-Tay, and thank you for joining us.
And
see you in a bit.
Love you guys.
The Meeting Space is a facility with over 100 weekly recovery meetings for addiction from alcohol, drugs, sex, food, gambling, codependency, and PTSD. When someone is scared to go to their first meeting, we walk them through the process, ask them and answer questions to assuage their concerns. Many are court-ordered to attend, and we provide free court papers and teach them the process. Our glass-enclosed, soundproof children's playroom enables parents to be in a meeting while watching their children. We have healing workshops, craft fairs, and special authors who come to teach and sit with our fellowships. During COVID, we were declared an essential business by the County Commissioner's Office. We were kept open so that we can continue our daily work with traumatized chronic relapsers and those who would have used alcohol or drugs in isolation. Local businesses rent our space as well to financially help with this mission, and they get to have a great location for their business meeting or training. The recovery store in the center of our facility provides literature, clothing, medallions, and custom gifts to encourage, aid in, and celebrate a person's recovery from alcohol, drugs, PTSD, or unhealthy behaviors. Both the recovery store and the meeting space are open every day, including holidays. Saving lives, educating the community, reducing social stigma, providing a safe place for people to heal. Our nonprofit is supported entirely by donations by people like you who want everyone to have a place to go to heal. Welcome back to the Real Recovery Show. We've been talking about slogans, and Tay-Tay went to go celebrate her 16 years. So proud of her. Where we left off before the break was the whole take what you like and leave the rest. As we go through our recovery, more is going to be revealed. And we start to learn that we don't need to be right about everything. That some things are going to be right for us at certain points of our recovery and won't later. And we're going to learn things later that maybe we don't know now. And we're learning things now that we didn't know before. And so we can have an attitude of watching everybody else in our recovery community doing what they need to do to heal without having this arrogance that they're doing it wrong. I moved from New York to Texas, and then from Texas to Las Vegas. And each time I moved to even 2 different parts of Texas, where I went to get to get fed in my recovery, I was so sure everybody was doing it wrong, like totally arrogant. And like there was one way to do it. And every time I would get to a place where I learned something, it was like, okay, now I know this is the way to do it. And so it was really helpful to learn to build an understanding that everybody's going through their own journey, that theirs doesn't look the same as mine, and I can take what they say, and if there's some part of it that makes me think, that makes me see things differently, I could take that because it resonates, and I can leave the rest. I don't have to argue with anybody. I don't have to be right. I don't have to fix their thinking. I don't have to tell them they're wrong. I can live and let live. And that's another slogan, another saying in recovery, live and let live. To be able to learn to support other people's highest good and to focus on my own paper has been a huge, huge shift, because I was so codependent. It wasn't just using drugs or alcohol to get me out of me. And here, I used people. I focused on people. They became projects. And I did it because I didn't want the project that I had, which was myself, and I wanted to be helpful and I wanted to be useful, but I wanted to be needed and I didn't want to be abandoned. So it was like, it was a mess, and to be able to get to a live and let live, to be able to really truly understand that everybody is going through a spiritual experience that they are having on a deeper level, and that there are things going on in their life that I don't know anything about. Not because necessarily they're keeping secrets, but because I can't know everything about anybody. I'm still learning about myself. And so live and let live, just allow people to have their process and learn your boundaries and learn how to take care of yourself, but eyes on your own paper. So this brings me to another slogan. And this one, oh my God, this helped me so much. It's the idea of principles before personalities. A lot of times I see people in recovery who want to put making friends and having cliques ahead of getting healed, of really looking at themselves. And it's very important. Like, this is a we thing we do. We come together, we join. But when I'm focused on the people I like and the people I don't like, I'm missing the deeper reason why we're all together, like what we're going through. And I am forgetting that this is not a popularity contest and it's not a gossip. It's that gossip isn't my friend. What I really am forgetting is that I'm there to heal, like to take it seriously, that I'm there to find what's not working with me so that I can heal, so I can save my life, so that I could be helpful, and so as I've gone through my process of going up principles before personalities, I am not going to get caught up in this. I don't get caught up in gossip. I don't want to hear. If somebody needs to talk to me about something that's going on with somebody else, it has to be not them, but really focused on their thinking, their feelings, and what's going on with them, not the other person. It has to be principles before personalities. It has to be, why are we here? It has to be being willing to put the true purpose of the joining and the tolerance and the understanding that we're all in this to heal, and we're all different, and I'm not going to like everyone, but I learned to love everyone. Another really cool saying that really helped me a lot over the years is, how important is it? This is a really, really strong slogan, a saying. How important is it? Something would happen and I'm all blown up. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most horrible thing. I can't deal. And I would be freaking out. And somebody would tell me, they would be like, how important is it? How important was it to you yesterday? How important do you think it will be? This too shall pass. How important do you think this is going to be to you in a week or a month or a year? Do you think you're even going to remember this in a year? And it was like, my mind was like blown. I'm like, no. Like, what about the things that you used to think were so important, that ate your lunch, that made you miserable, that filled you with resentment or fear? Do you even think about those things anymore? No. It was such an amazing tool. Like, how important is it? How important is it? It's a really great tool because we have this amazingly magnifying mind that could focus on a little thing and make it a big thing, like we said earlier, and make any kind of little problem, air quote, into an impossible feat to overcome. But we can chew it back down, take a step back and go, how important is it? Because I'm feeding this and I'm making it a huge thing. Again, we pole vault over mouse turds. So one day I was living in Houston and I wouldn't use it this way now in my life, but I definitely needed to use it that way then. Somebody had a lot of opinions about me. And I was walking around with my skin on inside out, really needing people to like me. And so I didn't care that everybody seemed to like me but this one person, and it was eating my lunch, guys. And so somebody said, how important is it to me? And my mind heard it differently. It said, how important are they? Is this person and their opinion something that was so important yesterday or last week? Did you even know who they were? Were they even in your movie? Are they going to even be in your life later? Like, is there anything that you feel should give them authority over your self-perception of yourself? Like, how important are they? Did you give them the authority? Did you put them on the pedestal? Did you make them the arbiter of your whole idea of who you think you are and whether or not you're worthy of love? You know, how important are they? I mean, ultimately, everyone's important, right? And we learn to forgive and love everyone. But if we are putting someone on a pedestal and we are getting heated up, afraid of them, angry, resentful, or whatever, if we are telling ourselves that we would have peace and emotional sobriety if it wasn't for this other person, ask yourself, how important is it and how important are they? Are they important enough that you need to go change how your sobriety date for? You know? And I don't know, that just really helped me that day because... And, you know, later I found that I wasn't really upset with this person for the reasons I thought. This person triggered something in me, triggered my secret shame tapes. And I don't even remember to this day what that person said at all, which is proof of what I'm saying. I don't remember anything, but I do remember how I felt, and I do remember how I shifted that. And I remember also that it was so powerful that it took a couple of tries to go, how important are they? Before I was like, you know what? Okay. Another really good saying is to keep it, you have to give it away. In our society, it feels like everything you have, if you give it to someone, you lose it. But when it's a spiritual principle, it's about having it in the forefront of your mind. It's about taking some of this toxic thinking and having a shift in perception and being solution-minded and feeling free from something that used to have you in chains. And now the willingness to give it to someone else, to pay it forward, to give what was freely given to you from someone else, from something you read or heard or something you experienced with your meditation or anything, and to give it to someone else. The energy of giving it to someone else strengthens that in your consciousness. It brings it even more so to the forefront of your mind, and you are even more solution-oriented, and you're excited, and you're inspired, and you're living in that inspiration. And to see the light, I just got the chills, to see the light go on in someone else's eyes, like the light went on in yours, makes whatever it is you're giving a bigger gift for you too. It's to keep it. We have to be focused on the solution. To keep it, we have to share what works. To keep it, we have to share our shifted perception, our insight, our clarity. To keep it, we have to not be willing to let old thinking creep back in. We have to give it away. We have to share it. And it's a misnomer that it's away. We're giving it to share. We're sharing it with another person who's come into our life perfectly, for us to hand something to them that on a deep level resonates with them because they already have it. So I love that. To keep it, you got to give it away. Because sometimes we can run the risk of being this is selfish. It's a selfish process to go through recovery, because there's so much internal that we need to work on. But if we're not sharing it with another person to help them, we can still say toxic, because we're still feeling like maybe we don't have it to give, or we're going to forget some of this stuff. It's not going to be something that we're using right now. And so, I mean, even in doing this episode, like, there's so many good things that this is bringing up for me and sharing with you that I'm like, oh my God, that's just right. Like, like, live and let live. Another one is live life on life's terms. If you're anything like me, you were a steamroller that was trying to like force solutions, and then you would give up from overwhelm and go get into your bed and pull the blanket up over your head. To live life on life's terms means that I can learn tools and skills and insights that I did not have growing up, maybe, and I did not have in my addiction. That I learn to move with life like a river, rather than sit and complain about the rock I just hit. To be able to flow around it, to be able to flow with it, to be able to trust the process, to let go and let God, right? And even the word God, it can be broken down into good, orderly direction. Good, orderly direction. Like, what feels like the next right step? How can I move freely through my life? How can I face things, process them, and use tools? How can I avoid the temptation to make myself miserable? The scary stories that I could tell myself, the projection onto another person, the willingness instead to be wrong. How do I learn these amazing tools that we learn in recovery and in our spiritual circles, to learn to live life on life's terms, to let go and let God, to move at the speed of our own intuition, and to trust, to wear the world like a loose garment, and to trust. There's a saying that if God seems far away, who moved? And it's very easy, even with 24 years sobriety, where I can end up thinking that, I'm so disconnected. I don't feel God. I don't know what's going on. And it is usually one of two things. It's usually when I feel that disconnected from what I call God, which I didn't for a long time, but it's a higher power, consciousness, intuition, whatever. When I feel disconnected, it's because either I'm focusing on something that is not important. Usually it's having to do with sex or having to do with getting something or whatever. I'm focused on accomplishing something, whatever it is that is so important to me that it is all I can hear, so I can't tune into God. I lack humility. I lack surrender. And so if it feels like I'm disconnected, it's because I am putting other things in my priority. And or something's coming up to heal. Like I said in either this episode or the one before, if it's on its way up, it's on its way out. You're not going to be happy all the time. If you're needing to be happy all the time, that is going to make you want to use. It's going to make you want to drink. And if it doesn't make you do those things, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be comfortable. It's willing to be uncomfortable. It's willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable that has helped me the most. It's recognizing, like the slogan we said already, this too shall pass. It's recognizing that, this is up for healing. It's expecting a miracle. It's expecting a shift. It's being focused on the solution, all the things that we've already been talking about. And so if God seems far away, or if I feel disconnected from my intuition, it's because something's coming up to heal, and I'm not. And it's like seeing clouds when there's a sun in the sky. I know it sounds very corny, but sometimes you have to remember it's daytime because there's so many clouds that day, and that there's a sun there, but you can't see it. it's the same thing, especially in early recovery, when there seems to be days where we have a lot of clouds that are needing to be sorted and healed and released, that we have to just remember that even if we're not having a direct experience where we feel truly connected, that it still is there and it's still available. And maybe we just need to do a prayer or a meditation or some other way of surrendering so that we can be willing to be wrong about what we're running on and ask for another way of seeing whatever's going on, to be able to process, to be able to say, this is what's going on for me, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling. And another saying is, don't leave before the miracle. Don't give up. Don't give up. Trust that if it's on its way up, it's on its way out. Another saying is, think through the drink. So when I was in early recovery and, we would think, oh my God, I really, really just want one. Really, I feel like I could just have one. It was alcohol, drugs, whatever it was. And so I was taught to think through the drink. And this is how you do it. You say, sure, I can drink or smoke that or take that or whatever. But then what? Is it going to stop there? Or am I going to want another one? I'm probably going to want another one. And then another one. And do I have any idea what's going to happen at all after that? I do not. It will become a shit show again. Is it quite possible that I could end up in a worse situation than I've experienced before? I think through the drink. I think all the way through the drink and I go, now, is what could happen worth what you feel right now? Is it worth it? And it's not. It's not worth it. And so I actually have used that to apply to a lot of things in my life. I think I want to do this thing. I think it's so important to me. And then I go, but it doesn't really resonate with me. And so I go, all right, think through it. Sure, you go do this thing, but it doesn't really resonate. So then what? And it's maybe this thing that's going to give me what I think instant gratification isn't really what I should be doing. I love massages, and touch is one of my love languages. And so I've had it in my past where maybe somebody that I shouldn't be hanging out with wants to give me a massage, and I'm like, oh, that would be so wonderful, to have a massage. But then I would have to think through the drink. I have to go, all right, but Lisa, this is not a good idea, because it's going to put you in a compromising position with somebody that you don't feel, for whatever reason, a yes to be in that position with, and you go, is that really what's going to make you happy? And it helps to not be somebody who is needing so much instant gratification anymore, to be able to let myself think through the drink, think through the process, and make a conscious choice to not do it. Another saying is, don't romance the drink. And this is what's so interesting. Everybody is different, right? I've known people who drank O'Doul's, and I've known people who drank soda out of wine glasses, and they feel like that's fine for them. For me, when I heard don't romance the drink, I heard not to make it special. I needed to really keep in mind the damage and destruction of what I walked out of. I don't need to fantasize and to feed a fantasy about, drinking like a normal person, or, smoking with some people and it's all being cool and I'm one of the cool kids or something like that. I can't romance that, because this is my life, and this is life or death. For someone like me, especially, it's life or death. And so if I start, seducing, and that's my disease, so wanting to seduce me by telling me that it's a positive thing, I will start to feel like I'm missing out. And I'm doing it to myself. When I have everything I really need in my recovery, in my spiritual life, in my community, I have a life way bigger than alcohol and drugs ever was allowing me to have. Another one is how, H-O-W. How is how does it work? How does recovery work? And it's about being honest, open, and willing. That we, in order to really shift, And I love this because I love little nuggets that I can just remind myself when I'm stuck. Like, am I being honest? Is my mind open to being wrong and open to a solution? Am I willing to ask for another way of seeing this? Am I willing to share and willing to have my perception shifted? Do I have a solution-oriented mentality? Am I honest, open, and willing? It's worth asking yourself, even to just do a check-in. If you feel some sort of resistance in your belly and your chest gets tighter and you feel this resistance to engaging with someone else and you don't really want to have a conversation about it, or somebody tells you something and you're like, yeah, I know, I know itis. That's another saying. Are you really being honest with yourself? Do you recognize that you need to heal something? Are you open to a solution, another way of looking at it? Doesn't mean if somebody shares something with you that you have to take what they say as fact. It's just a matter of being willing to open your mind, being willing to be wrong, and being willing to consider whether or not something somebody else says resonates. And in so doing, the mind shifts because we're doing this for ourselves. We're doing this to be free, and we want to heal. Another saying is, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And that needs no explanation. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And sometimes when I would have something come up to heal, and it's really hard for me to, my story of what I think is going to happen and how horrible that's going to be would come up. And I did a whole fear episode on this. I go with feelings and how I use a tool to deal with when I tell myself a scary story, how to unfuck my mind. Go check that out because there's a lot more that I don't have time to share in this episode. But really, tell myself, Lisa, if nothing changes, nothing changes. It's going to be the same relationship, different person. It's going to be the same situation, same job, but different location. Do you really want to be wherever you go, there you are? Do you really want to be the person who is constantly bringing the same thing to every situation and having the same experience? Aren't you sick of being sick, sick and tired of being sick and tired? And don't you want a change? If nothing changes, nothing changes. If I don't change my people, places, and things, if I don't change the people, the way I'm romanticizing the drink or the drugs, if I don't change my thinking and my habits, if I'm not willing to change these things, then I'm going to have the same experiences, and I'm not going to live the life that a free version of me can live. And another favorite saying is, recovery is for people who want it, not people who need it. If recovery had all the people that needed it in it, it would be even bigger, way bigger than it is right now. But for the person who wants it, it comes alive. I was listening to a speaker last night. I was speaking. I listened to a speaker at this event I was at, and he was talking about how he was, in and out of recovery for so long because he never really wanted it. He never really got to a place where he really, truly wanted it. And when he wanted it, it came alive for him. All of a sudden, he can hear, he could see, and he was hungry for it. And he took to it like the drowning seizes a life preserver. And he didn't before. For him, that desire, if you don't have a desire to change, you could do all the things, you could make resolutions, you could try to change your behavior, but if you don't have a desire to change, you're not going to bring your all in. And when you bring your all in, man, miracles happen. So, one of the things, I'll end with this, is it's not a slogan, but it's a prayer, and it's used like a slogan. It's the Serenity Prayer. Sometimes we hear it so many times that it just becomes rote, and we don't really consider what it is. So I'd just like to end talking about it, because it was many, many, many times the thing that helped me to become more present, more mindful, and take things one step at a time to be able to apply all the other tools. So God grant me the serenity. And serenity was something that I felt when I had quiet, when I had some sort of peace. I felt very uncomfortable at first. And the reason why is because I was used to chaos. I felt like I knew how to handle dysfunction. I felt very trained and it was my normal. And so asking God to grant me serenity was asking for not the awkward silence before something blowing up. It was something deeper. It was, please settle my mind. Please clear my thoughts. Please show me what the truth is. Please give me a sense of inner knowing. Please give me a sense of harmony. God, grant me the serenity. And it goes on and it says, to accept the things I cannot change. And again, we think we have to accept things as we interpret them, like that they are this toxic thing, but we somehow have to accept it. And we don't. We don't have to accept it like that. What we do have to accept that whether we like it or not, we don't have to like the situation, but we have to like ourselves in it. This is what seems to be going on, but I can change my attitude. I can change my attitude about it. And in changing my attitude about it, if I can't physically change it, I can accept it. I can accept that it's because now what we're accepting is not the thing that we think shouldn't be happening. We're accepting now our new interpretation of it that resonates with us. Not just another interpretation, but one that really feels like it resonates. And so the next part is the courage to change the things I can. So sometimes it's the thing, and sometimes it's our mind, and then the wisdom to know the difference. God, when do you want me to move my feet? And when do you want me to shift my perception? And sometimes it's both. And so I'm really grateful that you got to join us today. If you have an idea for a topic for a show and you want to be on one or you want us to talk about it, definitely let us know. And please also, again, remember that the opinions expressed here are strictly those of the people who gave them and do not represent any 12-step program or should replace your own intuition or professional medical advice. Again, you could watch us on Facebook, YouTube, Amazon Fire TV. You can listen to us on the PHLV Radio app. You can get our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart Radio. Just look for the PHLV Radio. And you can go to themeetingspace.com. It's themeetingspace.com and click on any one of our shows. And please like the video and share it with anybody that you feel it will help. Thank you for joining us today on The Real Recovery Show. We would like to give a special thanks to our sponsor and gracious host, PHLV Radio here in Las Vegas. We couldn't do it without you. See you next week.